All right, welcome to another episode of Five Star Conversations, where we talk with hoteliers having an impact on our industry. And today I have the pleasure of talking to Marcus Hanna. Welcome, Marcus.
Thank you, Brendan. Great to be here.
Marcus, what we'll do is we'll start off with your bio, and then just so that people obviously get an understanding of who you are and your background, and then we'll come back and we'll get into the questions.
Excellent.
So
Sounds
here we
good.
go. With over 25 years of vast hospitality experience, Marcus Hanna joined Vie Hotels and Resorts as Chief Operating Officer in October 2024. In his current position, Marcus leads the executive team of Vie, overseeing day-to-day operations with a strategic focus to drive service quality and business performance throughout the portfolio. Prior to joining Vie Hotels and Resorts, Marcus was with Accor for 20 years, his last role being Vice President Operations Pacific, Sofitel MGarrely and the Emblems, overseeing all of Accor's luxury hotels in the Pacific, a total of 23 hotels. Going back, Marcus began his journey in the hospitality industry at the Regent Hotel in Sydney, which we now know as the Four Seasons, as a banquet waiter, while studying hospitality management at Ryde Catering College in Sydney. He was concurrently pursuing a sporting career in rowing, where he was Australian champion many times over and selected to represent the country on 4 occasions, twice at World Championships. In 1995, Marcus joined Intercontinental Sydney, beginning his career in food and beverage before venturing abroad to Intercontinental London, Malta, and San Francisco as Assistant Food and Beverage Manager, and thereafter Director of Food and Beverage. Marcus returned to Australia in September 2004, where he started with Accor Hotels at Sofitel Melbourne on Collins as Food and Beverage Manager, before being promoted to Executive Assistant Manager. During this time, he oversaw a multi-million-dollar renovation of the hotel and also gained the opportunity to augment his portfolio with a dual position as the project manager for Sofitel on the opening of the Qantas First Class Lounge in Sydney and Melbourne. It's interesting. In October 2007, Marcus was appointed to General Manager for the opening of the Pullman Sydney Olympic Park, the first hotel of its kind in the Pacific, before subsequently transferring to Sofitel Gold Coast Broadbeach in a similar capacity. As a testament to his leadership, the hotel won the Best Meetings and Convention Property at Queensland Tourism Awards during his tenure at the Sofitel Gold Coast Broadbeach. Marcus then moved to Sofitel Brisbane Central in June 2012. During his stint in Brisbane, the hotel was one of the host hotels for the 2014 G20 Summit. In addition, he also led the hotel to become a 2-time winner as the best deluxe hotel in Queensland. Marcus then moved to Singapore and took charge of Novotel Singapore Clarke Quay, where he delivered record profit and guest satisfaction. In 2017, Marcus was promoted to General Manager of Fairmont Singapore and Swissôtel The Stamford, with 2,030 rooms, 13 restaurants and bars, and a convention centre. Transforming the complex through a $200 million refurbishment, Marcus then guided the complex successfully through COVID and was promoted to Managing Director in May 2021. Marcus holds a true and deep passion for the hospitality industry, believing wholeheartedly in working with his team and serving his guests. He holds very high standards for himself and his team and takes great pride and pleasure in the training and development of his colleagues and delivering superior returns to owners. Welcome again, Marcus. It's a pretty impressive career that's led you many places: London, Malta, San Francisco, then obviously a lot of time in Singapore. Wow.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan. Yeah, look, I've been very fortunate to work with some amazing leaders who've opened up opportunities for me, and I've taken them with open arms and run with them. So I've been very fortunate.
I'm sure as we get into our chat, we'll find that, like a lot of the people, it's that willingness to accept an opportunity,
Mhm.
as you said, with open arms. Everybody that I've spoken to, from Simon McGrath to Michael Johnson, have said if there was an opportunity, they said, "I'll do it. I might not know how to
Absolutely.
do it, but I'm happy to do it."
Correct. That's key.
That is part of the secret. So the
Yeah.
first question I always like to ask Marcus is, did you choose hospitality or did it choose you?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. I actually chose hospitality when I was young and went on holidays with mum and dad. I'd sit in hotel lobbies and just be fascinated with all these people coming and going and checking in, checking out, looking at the restaurants and just thinking, wow, how do they make all of this work? So when I left school, it's something that I was very passionate about. That it's an industry that I wanted to pursue, and I was fortunate enough to get a placement into Ride Catering College, which at the time wasn't that easy to get into. So I was very fortunate that I
Mm,
only got in part-time, not full-time, but that
okay.
actually worked quite well with my rowing career. So I chose hospitality, and I'm very, very glad that I did.
There you go. That's interesting. So back in those days, hospitality degrees were extremely popular, weren't they? I mean, I went through what was Footscray is now Victoria University, but it was a similar thing. It was actually there was a lot of people wanting to get into the hospitality industry. I think it was just the right time.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It was very sought after, and I know it right. They'd get hundreds or actually thousands of applications every year, and they only had a very small portion of intakes, and back then there weren't all the hotel schools in Sydney that they are today.
Good point. That's a good point. So yes, there were a couple across the country, and that was it, and quite prestige. And I noticed you worked obviously at the Four Seasons in banqueting. Did you work with Tish Nair at any time? Because he was also in banqueting at the Four Seasons. I think that's where he started. I remember him telling me his story from his early career where he set the entire banquet room with the cutlery the wrong way around and then, and then had to stay back for hours and
Yeah.
get it ready.
Yeah, look, it was interesting times. I don't think I didn't work. Obviously, I know Tish well, but I didn't work with him at the Regent, the then Regent.
Yep.
But look, it was interesting times. I mean, it was, the hotel in Sydney at the time. Obviously, Ted Wright, very high profile
Mm.
general manager, and in the social pages every other day. And with that came a lot of responsibility to the team working on the ground. So the standards that were in place in that hotel were just unbelievable, and that gave me such a great grounding for the rest of my career. And even just as a casual banquet waiter, you'd turn up to work, and if your uniform wasn't immaculate, they'd send you back to the uniform room. If your hair wasn't done properly, you'd be back to the change room. If your shoes weren't shined, and it was fantastic though. And I feel very fortunate that I did get to start there, because
Mm.
it really set the standard for what you need to achieve in your career. With high standards comes quality and comes a great guest service.
Yeah, that's a really good point, isn't it? And I've heard lots of stories, obviously, about the Regent and Ted, and as you said, the level of professionalism and the expectations that they had is a really good grounding for anybody starting a career.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was fortunate I got to work in cables for a while then too. And, it was obviously one of the leading restaurants in Sydney at the time. And so, the profile of people that were coming in was the who's who of Sydney. And again, just the level of service was phenomenal.
Yes, I remember going to one of the chef's kitchens evenings there with what's his first name? Desiree. There he was the head chef.
Oh, yes.
Desiree's his surname, sorry.
Surge.
Serge Desiree. And it was absolutely amazing
Yeah,
to spend time in the kitchen and have him talk to us. It was just brilliant. And it was
yeah,
such a great concept.
correct.
People loved it. People loved
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it was.
Talking about that, is there a moment from your early career that you like an experience you thought this is it, this cemented your love for hospitality?
Yeah, look, I mean, I just love dealing with people. So, I've had many, many moments, but probably one of the most memorable moments I've had was, I think at the time I was a restaurant supervisor, assistant restaurant manager at Cafe Opera at the Intercontinental Sydney.
Hmm.
And it was only myself and my manager on, everyone else had gone home. It was like 11:30 p.m. and we're just packing up the restaurant and about to leave. And then we had the IHG, or I guess at the time it was the BAS, head of Asia Pacific, staying in the hotel. And he turned up at the restaurant with a number of his team, and Wolfgang Grimm, who was the GM of the hotel at the time, another iconic general manager.
Mm.
And they said, "Oh, we want to eat." And so Colin and I, who was the manager, we set a table of 10 up for them, and they came in. Then we went to the kitchen team because the sous chef was just about to go home, and it was only the
Yeah.
one chef left. And we said, "Oh, look, Mr. Pagozzo and Mr. Grimm have just arrived, and the table of 10, and they want pasta." And Mr. Pagozzo was an Italian gentleman, loved pasta. And he just said, "Give me a selection of pasta." So the sous chef at the time said, "No, no, I'm going home." And Colin and I went, "No, no, no. Do you understand who this is?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going home." So the sous chef left. So Colin and I were serving wine. Then out the back, it was absolute chaos. We had pasta going with all different sauces on the stove, trying to work our way in the kitchen to find everything, chopping up different things, and anyway, I think we ended up getting about four different types of pasta with different types of pasta sauce for them on that occasion. And at the time, I had a sore toe, so I was limping along. And but front of house we were very calm and collective. Back of house was complete chaos. When they left, Mr. Pagozzo said, "That pasta, it was fantastic. Thank you so much. Please compliment the chef." And Colin and I were like, "Yes, we certainly will. Thank you very much." But I think it just goes to show, no matter what's in front of you, you just deal
Yeah.
with it. I'll never forget actually another story earlier in my career where I was a waiter at a hotel in Maroubra in Sydney called Tradewinds, and there was a coffee shop there that was open 24 hours, and I mean it used to get so busy, but it was only myself and the manager on this shift. I was an F&B server at the time, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it was an afternoon shift. The cafe just filled, and so for 2 hours, we were just running like heads, chickens without heads, and and at the end of it, we looked at each other and go, you know what? That 100 people, just
Yeah.
the two of us, and we coped and we got through it. And I think that just says hospitality is all about just what, it's not what I don't have, it's what I do have, and you just get on and do the job and try and give a great guest experience to the guests that you have.
I like that. Yeah. It's the glass half full, not empty approach to it, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
looking at positively and a lot of satisfaction comes out of being involved in something like that, particularly the pasta experience.
Absolutely. And
Chef box.
especially, I mean, I like you said, I studied at Ryde Catering College, but what a lot of people won't know is that in my cookery class, you had to do a three-course meal. And so the first course was soup. And my cookery teacher came over to the stove, picked up my soup, turned it upside down, and nothing fell out.
Oh wow.
So from that day forward, I realized, okay, I'll stay front of house.
Yep, yep. I love it. Marcus, I suppose I'm thinking about inspiration. Where do you get your inspiration from? Is there a particular, probably it's a two-part question. During your career, who's inspired you and probably who's provided career advice that's held you in great stead as you've gone through your career?
Yeah, look, I mean, look, my mum and dad inspired me. My father was an immigrant into Australia from Egypt and built his own business and was very successful in doing that. And that just, made you realize that, he turned up here with nothing and built. So, it just gave you the confidence that, you have a go at whatever you can and give it your best shot. And I've always been, inspired by my wife, who's very successful within her career and has done extremely well. But within hospitality, I've had a number of mentors throughout my career. If I look back at my intercontinental days, the likes of people like Wolfgang Grimm and Christian Pirodon in Sydney, John O'Carroll, who was the regional GM of the Intercontinental Park Lane in London, Campbell Black, who was RVPO in the US when I was in San Francisco. I mean, these people were, really had a big effect on my career early on. And then when I came back to Australia and joined at Sofitel Melbourne, I mean, I was the number two to Clive Scott.
Mm,
Clive's an icon in our industry and someone who does things differently, but just learning under Clive and the opportunities he gave me, I don't think I'd be where I am today without his assistance and support. And then I've got to give credit to people like Michael Issenberg and Simon McGrath. You look at what they have done with a core Michael throughout Asia Pacific and Simon in the Pacific, and
yep.
they're true legends of the industry. But I'm very fortunate to be able to call them both friends now. But I still call upon them for advice, and because they've got so much experience, and what you just look at what they've done and achieved, and it's just it's inspirational. So I've been fortunate. I've had numerous great people to work with, and in fairness, a lot of great owners that I got to work with. When I was at Sofitel Gold Coast and Sofitel Brisbane. They were both owned by Thakral, and the owner's representative was a gentleman by the name of Wayne Munn. And Wayne was a very tough taskmaster, but what I learned from him as a GM was incredible. You had to be across everything. You had to be across not just your numbers, but your team satisfaction, your guest satisfaction, your capex, just the whole package. And I think that really shaped me for where I am today.
That's interesting, isn't it? So many of my guests have said it's often a tough taskmasters that probably, at the time they didn't necessarily appreciate the treatment or the pressure, but
Hmm.
it really shaped them and honed their career. That's really interesting.
Yeah, oh, look, it's so true. You got to use every encounter to try and learn. And something I was taught early on in my career is be proactive, understand what your boss's needs are, and once you've understood what their needs are, make sure you deliver before they ask for something. So before they even know they want it, you've already got it in front of them. And I think that was great advice, and that's advice I give my team members on a very regular basis.
That is good advice. And it's mirrored with the guest as well. I suppose at the end of the day, that's our aim, isn't it? To deliver that same level of service to the guest, to be proactive.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very fortunate. We're in an industry where we've got one job to make people happy.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's not complicated. Just, delight and surprise and make them have a wonderful experience every time. And there's not many industries that get the chance to do that on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's only when we lose sight of that fact do we start to complicate things.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
We've sort of touched on it when we were going through your bio, something that not many of your colleagues may know about you, and that's your rowing career, or is there another talent that you have as well that not many of your colleagues know about?
No, look, I mean, yeah, my rowing career, I don't talk about a lot, I guess. It's a long time ago, but I think it really taught me discipline.
Mm,
It taught me teamwork.
mm.
And, I mean, rowing's the ultimate team sport because, you're in a boat with, whether you're in an eight or a four or a pair, you're only good as your weakest link in that boat. So,
Mm.
there's no superstar that can kick you a goal or score you a try or a basket in the team. You're only as good as each other in that boat. And it really teaches you to work together as a team. I was fortunate to have a decent career and got selected for Australia on a few occasions and saw the world through it, and got to go to many different regattas in different cities around the world. And for that I feel like I said, most fortunate. But I still have lifelong friends from those days because you're going through ultimate pain thresholds together. And you could be on a rowing machine doing testing, and you literally fall off the machine, and you got friends that are maybe even throwing up after it, and that I mean you go through a lot in that sport. Yeah, like it was great times. I was fortunate to be on scholarship at the Australian Institute of Sport for 3 years. Got to know many of the athletes down there, whether in rugby, swimming, water polo, basketball, soccer. And so, that was such a great community to be part of. But yeah, I still try and get out in the boat every now and again, but it's a bit difficult these days with travel schedules, and rowing's a type of sport that if you don't turn up, they can't go out. So it's hard to commit.
Good point. Point. That's interesting. I like you, as you were saying, there's a camaraderie that's developed through those shared experiences, and it mirrored similar to yourself and Colin. Cooking in the kitchen and going through that whole process. I'm sure that certainly that shared experience would be something you probably talked about a lot
Oh,
moving
absolutely.
forward.
We joke about it all the time. He's a good mate of mine now, and yeah, we're constantly. I think just the other day we were talking about it again. What an experience it was.
You come over for pasta. And on that note, what is the best piece of advice you were probably ever given in your career?
Yeah, look, I mean, as I said before, be proactive and
Yep.
anticipate your boss's needs. That's one. Take an opportunity as they come up, because you don't know when the next one will. And I think just be willing to be positive, try and outshine, outperform, your competition, and just enjoy what you do. I mean, we're in this industry, the hours, especially in the back in the day, they were long. So
Yep.
you had to enjoy it. You spend so much time at work, and what frustrates me sometimes if you hear people, just not enjoying their role, or complaining about their boss. That there's always options. If you're not, and I remember going to a Anthony Robbins conference in Sydney, but he used to stay at the Intercontinental Sydney and come and do his event at the entertainment centre. And
Yeah.
well, if you're not happy with what you're doing, then change it. Actually, it was quite funny. He would give the hotel 10 tickets to go and watch his event, and started on a Friday night and went through to a Monday morning. It was a huge weekend. But yeah, part of the thing he would say was, yeah, if you're not happy with your job, then change it. If you're not happy with your partner, change it. Anyway, the following year when he came back, out of the 10 people that went to the conference, I was the only one left. So the hotel didn't send anyone that year.
Had they all left the industry or they just moved to other hotels or
A few left the industry, a few went
interesting?
to other hotels, but I just thought it was quite funny. I know I don't think it was because of his conference, but it was just it was a bit funny.
I like that. Marcus, we're going to start talking about the industry as a whole now. Is there an emerging trend that you're quite excited about?
Yes, look, well, the space I'm in, the white label management space,
Yeah.
certainly it's emerged very quickly in Australia and
Mm,
in the Pacific, and it's something that's going to continue to expand and only get stronger. When you look at how strong it is in the US and in Europe, it's been very slowly adopted down in this region, but with some great talent and companies in the space now, we're certainly going to see that emergence where owners are looking for flexibility, transparency, and performance. And we have one role as white label third party hotel managers, and that's to get the best out of the asset. And that's ensuring that the team are happy and enjoying what they're doing and giving great service, and showing that the guests are then satisfied. And ultimately, if that's all in harmony, then it's easy to get a return for the owner because you'll have a sustainable business. Well, also, obviously, there's a lot of AI and BI that's happening with our industry. But what's most important is, we've got to make sure that we keep that human touch.
yep.
Yeah, we're an industry where we rely on people, and
Mm.
people are the ones that make the real difference in a hotel stay and a hotel experience. You can have the most beautiful hotel in the world, but if it's not delivered with great service, then guests will never come back.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I was reading a post on LinkedIn today. A colleague I think he was in the Netherlands, and he stayed at a four-star hotel. And at breakfast, there was no one. There was a
Mhm.
fry pan, and the expectation was that if you wanted eggs, you cooked your own eggs.
Yeah, right. Wow.
And it's like he was just commenting, I think we've gone a little bit too far
Yeah.
in that respect, and
Yeah.
particularly breakfast. I think when you're staying at a resort or a luxury property, the
Mhm.
breakfast is one of the most important things. You
Yeah.
judge the overall experience of the stay partly on the breakfast itself,
Mhm.
because it's just there's just such an array of things that it's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, breakfast is key, and it's I think if you can do the breakfast really well, then you've got higher chances of getting the guests to stay in a house for another meal period. So you nail breakfast, great service, great food, you'll then potentially you got a higher chance of getting another meal period out of them.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I suppose a question around technology itself. What has been one of your biggest learnings? I mean, you must have seen a lot of change. We all have seen a lot of change in technology in our industry over the last sort of 25 years.
Yep.
What's a key takeaway?
The tech's only as good as the people that are using it. I'll never forget in Singapore back in 2017, we introduced self check-in at the Swissôtel
Mm.
The Stamford.
Yep.
It's a 1,252 room hotel. And people thought we were mad to do that. But a lot of study had gone into putting it in place. And it's a hotel that 80% of the time you'd turn up into the lobby and there'd be a queue to check in.
Yeah.
And there's nothing luxury about queuing up to check in, and especially check out when you're in a rush to get to a flight or get to a business meeting. So we introduced this what we call assisted check-in. So
Yeah.
where it is a self check-in, but we rather called assisted because we did have colleagues that were in the lobby that would
Mm.
assist you to do it. But what was interesting, we put it into play, and we soon realized within the first few weeks that we've actually got to retrain the team, because the team was focused previously on a process driven check in and check out. You have
Yes.
to have your passport, your driver's license, or your credit card, and this is how long you're staying, etc. What we wanted with the assisted check-in was that you got now the opportunity to build an emotional connection with the guest. So you meet the guest as they enter the hotel, you walk them through to the assisted check-in area, you guide them through then the process. But while you're doing that, you can ask them, so what brings you to Singapore? Do the Gardens by the Bay, there's this great show on at the moment, or are you going to go to the Singapore Zoo, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And we've got this great Michelin star restaurant on the top of the hotel, and it gives you the opportunity then to really talk with the guests. And so we had to pivot very quickly to make sure the team understood what their new role is. You're more like a lobby ambassador now,
Yes.
and you're there just to assist the guests. So that was really interesting. And I've got to say, coming back to Australia, we're in pretty slow adopters to a
Yeah.
lot of the technology, and be that costs, be it resistance from GMs that might not be across what the benefits are. But I was very fortunate in Singapore to work with our head of IT and innovation within the hotel, who was a phenomenal guy, and he constantly would just come up with ideas and that we would run with, and it just makes it more exciting.
Yeah.
So my learning is around don't say no, always be open to an idea, go through what are the pros and cons if you implement this piece of technology, and if you decide you're going to go ahead with it, then go all in and give it your best shot. But again, it's about the people that are using it
Yeah.
that's key to get the most out of it.
Yeah, you've highlighted a really good point there that you can have the best system in the world, but if your team are not trained on it or not comfortable in using it, then it's not going to deliver. So there is always a degree of staff training involved. And yeah, I like the way that you implemented the kiosk, and that's always been my suggestion as well. It should be an assisted process because it is an opportunity to create that relationship. And I think there is a better opportunity to provide guest service than traditional check-in, which, whereas you said it
Absolutely.
was very much a transaction.
Correct.
And a lot of the time on check-in, you spent looking at, the receptionist's head whilst they sort of keyed your data into your property management system. So
Yeah.
not necessarily a great experience.
No, that's right. And look, the benefit was that from the day we implemented it, we only would have a queue at reception 2 days a year. One was National Day, when all the locals were trying to check in at 10 or 11 a.m.,
Okay.
and New Year's Eve. Outside of that, the queue was gone. So guests never had to queue. And to me, that's a big plus.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. Good service can come in many forms.
Yeah, most definitely.
Definitely. If we look ahead 10 years, Marcus, what do you think the industry will look like? What sort of change are we going to see?
Yeah, look, I think if we look 10 years back, what have we seen change? I mean, we've seen some technology come in, but we've seen, maybe more hybrid models coming in. Sustainability is obviously a huge part of hotels going forward. And if hotels don't have a sustainability plan and looking for neighbours ratings and the like, well, they certainly should be, because it's key. And especially with the likes of energy costs,
Yeah.
keep on increasing. I think with the way labor is and how expensive it is, we need to find more efficient ways to run the hotels, but still keep the key touch points there. So I think we'll see more adoption of AI within the hotels. Obviously now you can check in on your phone, and your phone can obviously then let you into your room. But what I find amusing is that, we still want people to go to reception so we can check your ID and that, but you can get on a domestic flight in Australia and no one checks your ID or anything, and you're on a flight. So we're still probably a bit process driven in what we want in our hotels. But yeah, so sustainability is big part, being part of the community and trying to get more of that community in there. Obviously, from a food and beverage perspective, we're seeing a lot more restaurants, independent restaurants coming into hotels. And I think that's I think that's a good thing because, a lot of them do it very well. And so if you can get a better restaurant with great food and great service in your hotel, that's only going to benefit the room side as well. So I'm sure we'll see more in that space. And it's just, it's having each expert do what they do well. So if you take our space, third party hotel management, well, you work with the brand and the brand delivers the top line and they do that very well through the loyalty programs and all that. You then align with us who we purely just concentrate on the performance and the efficiency of the hotel. And then if you've got another third party operator doing your restaurant, well, then you've got an expert in there as well. So I think we'll see more and more of that model.
Yeah, it's a great point, isn't it, actually? So specialists in each of the areas need to be careful the way I put it, but quality F&B back to hotels. Not to say that it wasn't, but in hotels we had the restaurant because guests, it was more we had it because guests could use it,
Yeah.
but we weren't necessarily catering to outside guests in most
Mm.
cases. Whereas if you do it properly, you can make it a destination in its own right.
Oh, absolutely. And you
Mm.
look at many hotels that have done that. You look at the Manly Pacific, for example, in Sydney with
Yep,
their new restaurant. I mean, it's from what I've seen, it's killing it and doing extremely well. But that's also now assisting the guest rooms.
of course.
And if you ask Simon, I'm sure it's adding ADR to the guest rooms. So, an example like that, I think, is a perfect example of how it can be done well.
And it's a bit of it's changing that mindset because I think we traditionally saw the rooms as the key revenue driver and
Mhm.
everything else was subsequent to that. But there's a lot more that we've got to offer. As you said, they can actually be delivered independently, but they can actually contribute to each other as well.
Oh, look, most definitely. I mean, if you think back to the 80s and 90s, I mean, hotel dining was the thing.
Yes, it was.
It was, it was great to go into a hotel and, whether it's a fine dining restaurant, a buffet restaurant, it was a
Mm.
great experience. But then so many independent restaurants then came out and some amazing quality restaurants that we still have today and cafes that's put more pressure on the hotels. If you're going to be average, well, you'll end up getting average results.
Yep. It's a fairly deep question, Marcus, but what is your hope for our industry?
Oh, look, I hope that our industry stays a very positive industry,
Mm.
that it continues to give great careers to people that choose to have a career in it. And I think what people don't realize is, I mean, I started as a banquet waiter. There's so many opportunities within our industry where you can grow and grow quickly.
Yep.
You can cross borders, whether state or national, international borders. You get to work with different cultures. So I just hope that we stay a people-focused industry, that we continue, delivering great experiences and continue to innovate, looking for ways to stay relevant, to ensure that our guests are being surprised and delighted on a
Yeah.
regular basis, that they want to come and be regular guests. So, I'm very hopeful that I think our industry is in a good space. I think coming out of COVID, we lost quite a bit of talent.
We did.
But I think a lot of talent is has started to come back into the industry, and I'd hope that would continue, and people realize the great careers they can have within our industry.
I love that. Yeah. And that was one of the reasons, to be honest, for starting the podcast was to bring out the stories of people like yourself and just showing what a wonderful career you've had from, as you said, from starting as a banquet waiter at the Regent to running luxury for a core to working for Vie. It's a career that's taken you around the world and given you so many experiences. And we just want the younger generation to understand that it is a career. It's
Mm.
not just a casual job necessarily that you have whilst completing a university degree.
No, and that's right. But having said that, if hospitality is not your thing and you're studying law or medicine or engineering, then there's so many life skills you can learn by working casually in a
True.
hotel whilst you're studying. And we want to make sure that we continue that pool of talent that continues because they'll learn a lot.
They will. And there are some examples of people who have done that. Matt Tripolini himself, he was obviously studying and dabbled in hospitality, then went out and then realized that he quite enjoyed that experience that he had and came back to the industry and was able to combine, both the real estate sort of aspect of the career that he had with
Yeah,
hospitality as well. So
yeah, excellent.
there you go. Marcus, I always like to finish with a question and the question is, what advice would you give to someone who's either just contemplating a career or starting their career in our industry?
Well, I mean, I'd tell them you've number one, you've joined a great industry. You've joined an industry where you can grow very quickly. What I would say is, don't be in a rush.
Mm,
I think a lot of people these days expect the promotion within 6 months and want to move on. If you want to be successful, you need to start from the ground
yeah.
and understand the ins and outs of a hotel, both front of house and heart of house, to make sure that as you do grow, then you understand and have a total, complete knowledge of the business that eventually maybe you'll run one day.
Mm,
Be open to any opportunity that comes up. And especially if opportunities come up these days that might not be in the same city that you are or the same country, because that experience you can get, especially if you get to work abroad,
yeah.
is amazing. Working in different cultures and with different people and different standards. To me, that is very, very, very important and will put them in good stead going forward. And ultimately enjoy what you do, love what you do. If you're waking up in the morning and you're not getting out of bed excited for the day, then maybe you're in the wrong role. And life's too short. You got to enjoy, embrace, and be positive. I've always been a glass half full. I find it very difficult to work with people that are glass half empty, because I find it drains me. Be positive. Get in. Always be the first to put your hand up if something needs to be done. If there's a project that needs to be done, then again, put your hand up, even if you know nothing about it.
Yeah.
You'll that's the way you learn. And I never forget when I got my first director of food and beverage role. I was at the Intercontinental Malta, and it was an opening, and I'd never done an opening before of a hotel. And it wasn't a small hotel; it was 450 rooms, four restaurants, three bars, and conferencing up to 1,000. So it was also the biggest F&B department I'd ever experienced. And I remember one day I'd been there for about 3 months, and I started to think, "Oh my God, have I chewed off too much that I can do?" And started to doubt myself. It's only natural, but you've got to try and get through that and challenge yourself, and opportunities will come. And I
Yeah.
think once you work your way back from that, that you think, well, and you accept that, okay, well, I could lose my job, or my boss might not be 100% happy with this piece of work. Once you work yourself back, you release the stress, and then you can think clearer, and you can get on with doing your best work.
Yeah. No, that's very sound advice. Marcus, it's been an absolute pleasure talking today. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Brendan. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.